Welcome to an episode of InRange. I'm coming to you today with something I'm actually quite enamored with. And this is the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0. One of their newer offerings on the market for compact concealed carry. Now, before I get into the specifics about the gun and why I actually like it quite a bit, you're going to see that later in the video, let's address the issue of compact firearms in general. It's not hard to go look on the internet right now, and you're going to see a lot of commentary kind of negative towards the idea of compact or subcompact carry pieces. And you're going to hear things like, you're not really carrying unless you're carrying something like this. And, well, there's not a lot of reality to that. And frankly, the internet has a lot of talk and not a lot of action. People that say things like this, I'm sure some of them are doing that, but the vast majority of what you read on the internet are a bunch of people who talk a lot and do nothing. Now, carry something like this if you see fit, and if you're going out to your local Walmart thinking you're going to go to war against Al-Qaeda, perhaps you need this. And I'm not going to tell you you should or shouldn't carry that, but that's not something I'm going to do every day, and I don't think that's something a lot of normal people are going to do every day, and frankly, most people don't even conceal carry as it is. Now, there's a lot of history to this, right? When you go back to the Old West, which is a topic I like to talk about, and this is not the video for today, people didn't generally carry this. Just like people don't generally carry that. And for a lot of reasons. One, back in the Old West, most cities had laws that were far more prohibitive and restrictive than the laws we have nowadays, and you weren't technically legally allowed to carry a gun within city limits. Now, some of that's different now and better in that regard, but still, walking around with this all day gets old real fast. So, really, the kind of stuff people carried were things like this, because they could carry them concealed, and they could carry them comfortably, and they could possibly be in a non-prohibitive environment, not that I'm saying you should or shouldn't, and not be detected. That said, even if you are in a permissive environment, a lot of times you don't necessarily want everyone around you knowing you're carrying a gun. But that addresses the question, just like back then, what is sufficient in that regard to be able to do the job while at the same time be small enough for comfort, but also not necessarily detected? And we've seen a lot of this kind of stuff on the market now for a while. This, of course, is a Ruger LCP2. It's a little 380. It holds, 6+1 rounds. And yeah, this does the job. Concealed carry. It's very non-detectable. It's very small. It's very light. It only has 6+1 rounds, and it's 380, which is something we'll get to more in the video. I personally think is sufficient when utilized properly. But one of the problems with these kind of compact guns, especially this one, is that sights are non-adjustable. Maybe that's not something you're worried about. But the trigger's a little weird. I mean, it is what it is. But kind of feels like a staple gun. But more importantly, when you hold this in your hand, it doesn't feel like a normal gun. It feels like this widget. It feels like a weird little thing. And to a large degree, it is a weird little thing. Something the Old West didn't suffer with as much because this feels like a standard revolver. But when you use some of these, while it is a step forward in terms of concealability and firepower in your pocket or appendix carry or whatever you're doing, they feel odd to me. They don't feel like a standard traditional gun. And that's something that I am finding is not the case with this little Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2. It really feels like a normal handgun, just a little smaller. Now, this is kind of the standard go-to default full-size gun for concealed carry. It's a Glock 19. And certainly this is more carryable than this, but even this may not be what you need to do on a daily basis. But this little guy, when you get him in your hand and you go to aim with him or fire him or handle him, he feels like a standard normal handgun in your hand, just a little smaller. And in that regard, much easier to shoot, and the manual of arms feels normal. This is the 12-round magazine. This is the 10-round magazine. Of course, the 12 round sticks out a little bit at the bottom, which gives you perhaps a slightly more comfortable grip. But reality is this little guy's a little smaller, and it's fine with that as well. But this is so minimal in terms of how much larger it makes the gun. I'm not sure why you just wouldn't use the 12 round. Comes with some really cool standard features. Adjustable sights. Does take a lot of effort with a punch or an adjustment tool to move them, but you've got a nice serrated rear sight and actually a tritium front sight. Really cool little feature there. Both are drift adjustable. The one complaint I've had about this gun is you might really need to do that. I have found that mine shot to the left, and that's why I've adjusted my front sight to the left to correct that issue. And from looking online, apparently a lot of these tend to shoot to the left for a lot of people. Whether that's me or the gun or everyone, doesn't matter. Drifting these and being able to drift them is a big deal. And having a tritium front sight standard on the gun is a really neat feature. It has a very good sight picture, which feels very much like a normal handgun. Really appreciate that. And you can get this gun with either an active external safety or a standard Glock style safe action trigger. I am not a big fan of manual safeties on carry guns, so I went with the trigger safety system. Once again, as I said, 12 and 10 rounds. Now, let's compare this to some of the compact guns that have been around before. This is a Ruger LCP2, one of the standards kind of for this type of carry. And if you look, my goodness, it's almost exactly the same size and really almost the exact same thickness, except this feels like a weird thing in your hand and this feels like a standard handgun, and this holds 12+1, well, this held 6+1. So that's a big improvement there. Additionally, this kind of has this weird staple gun type trigger, and this, besides feeling like a normal handgun in your hand, and I can't express how much this feels like a normal, just smaller handgun in your hand, the trigger feels more Glockish, which is fine for what this is designed to do. Now, to compare this, let's do another comparison. There's a Glock 19, full size. Of course, Glock 17 is even bigger, and it is significantly smaller than that Glock 19. That's not to say you can't carry a Glock 19, of course. That is not the point of this video. But for someone who wants something a little more demure and smaller or more concealable, this does the job. But as you can see, when you compare them next to each other, it really does feel, look, and act like just a smaller full-size handgun. And that's a really, really cool feature. Now, it also is really just like a smaller full-size handgun in every other way as well. It's a field strip, lock it back, turn down the lever, drop it, dry fire, comes right off. All the normal features here. You got captured spring, barrel, etc. So just to put it back together, easy as it could be, slide it back on, lock it, drop the lever, drop the slide. All right, besides the fact that I felt like it was necessary to drift the front sight to the left, this gun has been completely reliable and really cool. Let's go do some live fire. So the mag spring is quite strong on this, probably because the action cycle is quite fast. And one of the things I can say about that is it can be quite tough to feed the magazine to its full capacity. This is not uncommon, and it's not unusual. This is not something special about this gun. It just is what it is. I'm loading the 10 round mag right now. It does have witness holes. We're at 8, 9, and the 10th one's going to be a struggle. Ugh. Once you get that in, though, that is the full capacity. It is very hard to compress it beyond that. So it's difficult to seat the fully loaded magazine on a loaded chamber with the slide closed. It's possible, but difficult. So we have an empty gun here, but if I go to seat this, it's like you gotta have to smash it in. So you can do 10+1 or whatever +1, but it is, you gotta use some force to do that. There it goes. All right, so this is 380, and I know that's not 9mm, and 9mm is kind of the standard by modern day in terms of self-defense ammunition, or cartridge or caliber. But 380 is no slouch, and in that regard, I think this is where you want to start thinking about the ammunition choice in a somewhat different way. Instead of going for expansion, you want to go for penetration. And with 380, and specifically even more so 32 ACP, this is when I start to think, for me at least, that you don't want to worry about expansion as much as you want to consider penetration. You want to meet that FBI minimum. Now 380 will easily meet the FBI minimum with ball, and there are some expanding hollow points out there that mostly can as well. But for me, at least, when it comes to 380 and 32 ACP and stuff under 9mm, that's when I start thinking, for self-defense purposes even, I'm just going to stick with ball. Now, I'm not saying that that should be what you do. I'm not saying that's some scientific decision. I'm saying from the data I understand and seeing the ballistic information, to me that makes the most sense. You do what you need to do. That said, this is a smaller gun with, of course, a relatively short barrel. I have my little chronograph out here. Let's see what we're getting with just, this is standard Aguila 95 grain ball ammunition. So let's see what we get out of this. .900 feet per second. 896. 817. 879. 858. 908. 904. 903. 870. And 844.5. Now, Aguila is probably not the best choice. This is just some blinking ammo. I'm not saying this is the ball that I would use when I carry this for serious purposes, but let's take a look at that data. This Zero chronograph from Garmin is freaking amazing, by the way. So it does all the math for me. We had an average of 880 feet per second with a average foot-pounds of 163.3. Now, I'm not going to shoot a rhinoceros with that, but 10 rounds or 12 plus 1 in the gun, and I'm sure there's better ball ammunition on the market than Aguila. That's just what I have with me for this video. I will do some more research into which ball has kind of the highest velocity, which is what I would want with this gun, but there's some data for you. So I've said over and over again how much I really like this because it feels like a normal handgun in your hand, even though it's in this compact profile. I've got a target there at 15 yards, and this is very controllable. Partially, of course, because it's in 380, but very much so for being so diminutive in its size. So let's take a look here and let's dump on this thing. Yeah. Yeah, it's just 380. But I think that would make someone reconsider their poor life's decisions at that point. I think you could tell I really like this little gun. Whether or not you want a compact CCW or not, that's up to you. But if you're in the market for a compact concealed carry piece, at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and say this is the best one on the market. I think Smith & Wesson really hit it out of the ballpark with this. And the fact that it feels like a normal traditional handgun in your hand and has significant firepower of 12 plus 1 really speaks a lot to this gun's qualities. Tritium front night sights, good rear sight that actually has a notch on it if you need to do the cool rack it on a table thing, an actual reasonable sight picture that have adjustable sights on a compact pistol, reliable, lightweight, small. I don't know what else you would want in something that is what this is intended to be. If you think you need to carry a bigger pistol, have at it. I'm not arguing either way, but if you want a compact pistol right now, this is, in my opinion, the one to get. Now, I do want to tell you that this is completely a crowd-funded project. Smith & Wesson didn't send this to me. I bought this with my own money. Due to viewers like you supporting the channel for now over 9 years, completely demonetized, via patreon.com/InRangeTV. If you like these kind of reviews that are completely fair, honest, and unbiased, in which we actually buy the products and give you the fairest review we can, then please consider supporting us. Every dollar counts. If you already are supporting us, thank you so much. The other thing anyone can do is help us with the YouTube algorithm. It absolutely does not promote our content, and this sort of actual information-laden content isn't really what gets the clicks anyway. This is for people that actually care about the topic. Subscribe, click the bell, whatever, but share with your friends. You can be the organic algorithm for us. And if you want to go a step above and actually support the channel to make it possible to continue doing this, patreon.com/InRangeTV. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more concealed carry pistols, more Old West content, more history content, hopefully all the things you've enjoyed from InRange over all the years. See you soon.